Well, good evening, everybody. As always, if you could just let me know if you can see and hear and everything looks and sounds okay on the stream, that would be super smashing. And then we'll have the usual, which is if you are new to the stream, just put hashtag new in that comment section, that chat section, and I can give you a warm welcome. And if you're an old timer, you've been here more than one time, then put hashtag old in to get a welcome as well. So once everybody kind of lets me know if everything sounds good, lovely. Thank you very much, Rich. You're an absolute star. Great stuff. Cheers, Greg. Okay, so as always, let's go through a few welcomes. Now, if you excuse me for sniffing tonight, I cannot seem to shake off this bloody cold. So if I'm sniffing and snorting and sneezing, I do apologize, but at least you can't catch it over a YouTube live stream, which is a positive. Okay. So we've got a couple of things I want to cover tonight, which I'm pretty sure you probably know what I'm going to talk about based upon the title of this week's live stream. But we're going to have a Q&A as well, as always, and I would welcome your kind of feedback on anything that I kind of talk about tonight. I'm sure there's going to be a quite diverse collection of feelings with regards to the various different topics, and I would welcome those in the chat section. And as always, if you enjoy the live stream, you get value from it, and you just enjoy being part of the whole WP crew, be sure to give that thumbs up button a click, just to let YouTube know that you enjoy this content. If you don't, well, you can hit the thumbs down button twice because you know that works pretty well too. Just don't hit the thumbs up button twice because that just doesn't do a lot. Okay, so let's have a couple of welcomes. Let me just do a quick hashtag news first of all so we can see what lovely folks we've got in tonight that are new. Okay, Jack Daltrey, good to see you in tonight. Thank you very much for joining in. Martin, good to see you as well. Chris Henning, Brian Jones, Paul Rogers, thank you very much for joining in. An absolute welcome to you guys for coming in. And old-timers, well, let's be honest about it, there's quite a few old-timers in here. We've got, let's have a little look. What do we have? Rich Wade, well, always good to see you in here, Rich. You know that. Always a pleasure. Babak, good to see you in as well. MD Jadan, hope to see you around here more often. Video Boy, good to see you as well. Hashtag Shorts. Faberon. Now, I'm never going to say it. So I'm going to say Thij de Jong. I hope I said that correctly. If not, I do apologize for butchering your name. I'm terrible with names. Goran, always good to see you in. I am never going to say this because, well, you'll probably know why if you're from the UK. But good to see you in as well. Thank you very much for joining as always. Okay, Rich Wade. Yes, well, we know Rich is an oldie one. So Rich Ward, good to see you in as well. And Daniel Stevens. So thank you very much for joining in today, tonight, whatever time it is, wherever you are. And as always, let me know where you're from because it's good to see where you guys are actually coming in and joining in from and what kind of time it is. Because I've kind of moved things over a little bit for this particular sort of stream to 8 p.m. UK time. Just because it means that for the other guys that are in the US, it means you can join in and the time difference shouldn't be too bad. So let me know where you are, what time zone you're in, and what time it is with you guys, because I'd love to know to get a kind of feel for where you are in the world and also what time it is to make sure that we're kind of getting the most out of these live streams. Okay, so let me just do a couple more welcomes. Good evening, Els. Good to see you in. And it's good to have Imran in as well. And if you don't know Imran, I'm pretty sure you do. But he's from Web Squadron, and if you haven't checked out his channel, take a look on YouTube because Imran's doing a lot of really, really good live streams pretty much every day, as well as a lot of great content on Elementor, web design, and lots of other great topics. So check out Imran's channel. And as always, going to give you the same chance to check out. You've got to check out Stratus tutorials because let's be honest about it, Stratus is here every single time we do a live stream, and he's doing an awfully good job of creating content for you guys to learn how to use WordPress, Oxygen, and all those kinds of tools. So check out those channels if you haven't already. If you enjoy them, hit that subscribe button to become part of their communities as well. Okay, let's have a little look. Who else do we have? Yanis, good to see you in tonight. And we've got Rashid, good to see you in. Nora, always a pleasure to have you guys coming in. Daniel, Alan Jacobs, Jamie, Davey Dennis, always good to see you in. John Hussey, good to see you as well. Joshua, good to see you. Gerald, Bruno, have I missed anybody out so far? I don't think I have. Hope not anyway. Marco, always a pleasure. Web Squad sat in bed 8 p.m. Leicestershire after catching up on TV programs and of course before I log in for late night work. Dude, you need to stop working so bloody much. There's more to life than work and Star Wars. Probably. Davey from the Netherlands. And we've got London for Atif. Good to see you in as well tonight. Jack Daltrey from Liverpool. Terrible accent there, do apologize. Faberon, Finland, it's 10 p.m. Greg, 2:03 p.m. Central Time, US, 2 p.m. So it's good to see that we've got a kind of option now for our US guys to come and actually join us. So great to see you guys in. Same time as the US from Jamie. Great stuff. Dave Dan, good to see you in as well. Okay, so let me just quickly scroll through to the end of the comments. And let's go through what I want to talk about first of all tonight, which... Let me just share my screen a second and let's just have a little chat about this one then, is it? I'm sure Imran's going to have some comments and feedback on this. So Elementor acquires Strattic to redefine WordPress hosting. So basically, Elementor have acquired the hosting company Strattic, and from what I can kind of read in this particular article, and if you haven't already seen this, then I can put a link in, let me know, and I can let you know. So it's pronounced Ufuk. Okay, once you said it correctly, okay, that's okay then, as long as I didn't say it badly. So this is kind of one of the key things that's happening with Elementor at the moment. If you haven't read this article, I'd recommend just having a little check through on it. Like I say, I will pop a link into the comment, into the description a little later once we kind of wrapped up on this. Basically, they bought the hosting company Strattic, and what it looks like they're looking to do is not only just get into the hosting side of things, but Strattic is kind of known for headless WordPress. And basically what they're looking to do, I think, and like I say, this is probably just partly guesswork, is they're looking to go headless with WordPress. And what exactly does that even mean? Well, if you kind of consider WordPress itself is, you've got your hosting, you've got WordPress sat on top of that, then you've got like your page builder, Elementor sat on top of that, alongside if you're using the theme or the Hello theme, whatever. With that is the inherent issue of the potential for being hacked, because let's be honest about it, WordPress can be insecure if you've got plugins, themes, or anything that's outdated. So there's lots of reasons why why WordPress can be a little less secure than we would like. But what headless is going to do is basically give you all the benefits of using WordPress to create your designs alongside Elementor. But when you save that design, instead of it being WordPress outputting that data, headless basically means that you're going to have a static HTML version of it, and using Strattic is going to give you a cached CDN-based version of your website in HTML format, as opposed to what we kind of currently have, which is your PHP version of it, which is all dynamically generated. So you can kind of see there are benefits that are not just from the security point of view, but also from the speed point of view, because as much effort as Elementor are making to try to get as lightweight as possible, page builders by their very nature, alongside WordPress, do have those issues with speed. We can use lots of different ways to counteract that, CDNs and optimization tools like perf matters and so on, but inherently they're never going to be as fast as a static HTML site, especially when you tie that into a CDN. So this is where Elementor purchasing or acquiring Strattic, that's the direction they're going to go in. Now, if we go back probably several months ago, quite a few months ago, when we heard about Elementor going into the cloud platform side of things, I did say, I think during one of the live streams, that I think what they're looking to do is potentially not solely move away from the WordPress market and infrastructure, but looking to create something that becomes more of a standalone product, a SaaS, software as a service, which you've kind of talked about. And this kind of feels like a bit of a middle ground to that kind of thing. They still retain the integration with WordPress. So people that are using the WordPress plugin and used to the WordPress ecosystem and using and building sites like that, you're going to kind of have all that flexibility, but with the added benefit of having a static-based content CDN'd and delivered much quicker than you would do with WordPress and so on. So that's the direction they look to be going in. What are your thoughts on this? I kind of think it's no real surprise if you've been looking at this for any period of time and you've looked at, the direction they're going in with their cloud platform. But this does seem like this is the next logical step to get them closer to being less WordPress dependent and creating more of a SaaS environment, even though it still sits on WordPress. You kind of get the benefits of both those kinds of things. So what are your thoughts on this? I mean, I'm sure Imran's got some thoughts on how this is going to work and how good this is going to be, because if you've tried the cloud environment, the current cloud environment, it's not the quickest to load in my experience. I don't know if anybody else has had better experience, and maybe that's down to the fact that they don't have servers all over the world right now. I think the server that I'm in is something like Belgium or something like that. So serving the UK market is not going to be as quick as if they had servers in the UK. Whereas this might counteract that problem where you take away that WordPress and Elementor page builder overhead and you strip it back to a HTML-based version being output. So let me know your thoughts on this. If you do hashtag LEL, then I'll know that you're going to be coming back with a comment about this, and we can use that then so I can filter through and see exactly what you're saying in the chat. Yeah, so it's not just me then. Imran, you found the Belgium server can be a little wobbly too. You know, I think when you're working inside there, it's not too bad. You know, when you've got the Elementor editor open, it's relatively snappy. But it's not as quick as I've found when I'm using servers that are local to me. So there's obviously the issue with that. So whether they're going to expand the cloud platform to have more, or they're going to kind of go more for pushing more in the direction of using this kind of Strattic way of having headless WordPress, which kind of alleviates some of the stress that you're going to see using the cloud platform. It'd be interesting to sort of see where they go in the next sort of 6 to 12 months. But it's interesting to see, and I don't think it's any kind of surprise, because let's be honest about it, there seems to be a lot of acquisitions in 2021 and 2022, usually by hosting companies. So this is kind of flipping it now, where you've got a company like Elementor that are actually buying out the hosting company. But the good news is that the people that are actually behind Strattic, they are all still going to be in the company. So it's not a case of taking it over, dumping off the staff, and then taking over doing it themselves. It's good to see that this is more, hopefully, of a partnership between the two companies, where the Strattic team can kind of focus on what they are doing well, and then they can kind of like integrate into, or they can integrate Elementor and WordPress into that to give us that headless environment. It'll be interesting to see where this goes, in the imminent future. So this is one I think we're definitely going to have to keep our eyes on. And hopefully once this does kind of mature, I can take a look at it. Now, obviously, we don't know what kind of pricing structure this is going to bring to the table. It might be one of those things that when you compare it to the price that you're paying for Elementor Cloud, which is currently $99 with a license for Elementor Pro, I don't see it being that cheap. So it'll be interesting to find out what pricing structure they bring to the table with this acquisition and using the Strattic service to give us that sort of that different level of hosting and headless WordPress. But like I say, let me know your thoughts in the comments in the chat section, so I can kind of take a little look and see where your heads are at with this. Let's have a little look. Let me just quickly scroll back through. Right. Brett, let's have a little look. Elementor needs to beef up their cloud offering before I even think about jumping ship. I'm happy with SiteGround and Bunny CDN mix currently. I think that's the hurdle that they currently have, is getting people off their own hosting plans using the Elementor WordPress plugin to something of their own making, whether that's cloud or whether it's using this sort of Strattic combination with Elementor, and seeing what they bring to that. You know, the benefit you have when you have something like Elementor on your own servers with SiteGround or Cloudways or anything like that, is you have full control over exactly what you want to put on there, how you want to optimize it, and those kinds of things. So there's more control, whereas the cloud platform is, I would honestly say, this is more, I think, geared towards your people that have used a platform like Wix or something like that, and they want to kind of go to a more self-contained version, as it were, but they want more flexibility than what you get with something like Wix. So to me, cloud, in the way that it's structured at the moment, kind of feels a little bit like a halfway house, where you give up the flexibility of being able to install anything you want for a semi-closed or semi-walled garden that you have with the cloud platform. So yeah, I do agree they do need to beef that up and give us faster servers, I think, is the most important thing, and more servers in more countries, so you are getting a better experience from delivery and from, you know, the creation side of things. So yeah, I can't disagree with you there. Okay. Sebastian, Elementor for me became a letdown when I started using it. I can have a per page widget or a good filter widget from the Pro option. Okay. I can kind of see where you're coming from with that. I think some people have become frustrated with Elementor and what it does. And yeah, I mean, you can't sort of disagree with that when you kind of compare it to some of the other tools that are out there and how they've taken on board what people need and built those. But I've kind of talked about that many times in live streams and so on. So I'm not going to rehash that same old argument. You know, I think Elementor definitely have a roadmap of where they see the company, not just the product. And by the looks of it, that definitely seems to be more going down the route of a self-contained platform where they can then have more control over more aspects of it, which from their point of view makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. From the user's point of view, don't know where that's going with that. Okay, so thank you very much for that one. What do we have? So they may be on future transform to SaaS and another version of WordPress. I don't think at this point in time that they would go 100% SaaS, even if they have the option to do that. I think they've got such a massive user base, transitioning that away from being a WordPress-centric plugin to a walled setup like they currently have with cloud. I think that would lose an awful lot of people. So maybe their future, next 5 years or something like that, but I don't see it being a short-term way of working. I think they would really struggle to transition away from the WordPress self-hosted version that they have as a plugin to a solely online version where they control the hosting and everything else that goes with it. So maybe in the future. I don't see it right now though. Atif, I think a big benefit to using WordPress is leveraging dynamic content, and there's a better static page builders that are easier to get up and running, so I'm on the fence, but it's interesting. The thing is, you're not really giving up that dynamic content option. I think all you're kind of doing is in the way that some CDNs will work, is they will create a cached version of the dynamic output and then deliver that. You know, I'm sure there'll be some level of control over how frequently it is updated. I've never used Strattic, so I don't know how this would actually work. But there's got to be some way in which you control how frequently it will be updated. And if you can control when you push live, that it'll force refresh the CDN, the content delivery network, to give you the most up-to-date version. So you're kind of getting technically you should be getting the kind of best of both worlds. WordPress and Elementor to be able to create and build your pages in an environment that you're already used to. But that will then push out, and the server will, in real time, generate the HTML, convert it from PHP, your dynamic data from your database and so on, and then just output a HTML version to speed up the delivery side of things for the end user when they request your page. You know, I've not actually used headless WordPress, so maybe this is something I need to look into a little bit more, but that's generally the way I would consider it would work. Otherwise, you'd end up with, if it was like every 24 hours, if you're making changes to your website, especially if you've got something like a news website where you need that, you know, you need to be able to push content out, update content as new information becomes available, then that would really be a bad way of working, and you would kind of lose that benefit of the static delivery of a dynamic-based website. So I think that's probably more the way it's going to go. Okay. Ooh, I got another thumbs down. Awesome. I think maybe the Elementor fans don't like my comments. Okay. There's a talk tomorrow from Miriam Strattic, so hopefully there'll be more details. Do you have any more information about where that is, Imran, so we can kind of keep an eye on it, so I can have a little look? Because I'd be interested to find out what is going to happen in the near future. I know that from what I can kind of gather, Strattic does have a good reputation, so hopefully that'll be something they continue to develop when they kind of move away with this sort of acquisition. I can't say buy, it's more of an acquisition. So interesting to see. So Imran, if you know what that is, can you just ping me a message or let me know if you know the link or some information about where I can find out where and when that is tomorrow, because that would be interesting to find out what's kind of in the future for the platform. Okay. I'm livid. It could be good for them if they do like Wix Squarespace, easy to use, build, and paying an annual monthly fee. But what about custom post types, marketplace memberships, booking, and complex sites like that? I think this is the thing we've got to kind of keep in mind, is that they're not going to, well, at this point in time at least, they're not going solely to that model. This is going to be one of those things that sits alongside the cloud platform and sits alongside the self-hosted platform. So you can you still make a choice of which direction you want to go in. Do you want to go down the route of having the benefits of the sort of static HTML delivery, so you get the fastest loading website with the flexibility of using WordPress and Elementor? Do you want to have a kind of like halfway house using the cloud platform, or do you still want to have maximum control just by using the plugin itself with your own hosted WordPress? So I think there's definitely going to give you different options which you can pick and choose, which is the best for your particular, sort of use case scenario or your client's scenario, those kinds of things. So I don't think it's a one or the other. I think it's going to be a choice you can make with more options. I can't get off my own hosting. I own it. Yeah, that would probably make it a bit more difficult. But then again, you never know. Elementor might come and buy it out if you make it a nice, viable option. So options are always there. Okay. Imran, I would love to fully move clients to a great Elementor server and better features like inbuilt emails, access to file manager, and support as good as SiteGrounds. I don't envisage them giving you access to things like the file manager. Support side of things, it would depend really if the support is coming from the hosting company and if that's totally owned by Elementor and they're going to be using the same support systems, or if it's going to be the current support system that you have inside a platform like Strattic, or if they acquire any other ones. You've got to look at where the support is going to come from and how that's going to be delivered, because their track record hasn't always been the best, and I'd hate to see that being a case now when people move over to alternative options like Strattic or the cloud platform, and then the support lets it down. Because support, if you're kind of going to have this platform that is aimed at smaller users, beginners, those kinds of things, support is something that has to be there and has to be good. And generally, SiteGround is kind of well known for good support. I know that's kind of fluctuated a little bit where they've made some changes recently and it kind of went a bit downhill, but has got a bit better. So they need to make sure that the support is there. But then if they get a mass influx, it's whether the support could actually keep up with that. So we'll have to wait and see, and again, get feedback from people when this becomes a reality, when people can jump on board and test it out. And I'm sure in the Elementor groups, we're going to find out what the support is like, what the platform is like, and what the whole system is like when you're working with it. So it'd be interesting to see where that goes. I'm going to keep my eye on that for definite. Rich, I really don't see the point of Elementor Cloud in its current format. It needs to be built from the ground up and native like Brizy Cloud. I kind of totally agree with you on that one. I prefer the way that Brizy Cloud has been set up, in the fact that it's not based upon WordPress, so you are getting the benefit of a sole platform built specifically to work on the cloud infrastructure that they've got, as opposed to what you kind of currently have with Elementor Cloud, which is kind of more of a hybrid approach where they've got hosting and they've got WordPress, and basically it's an automated way of installing WordPress with Elementor, tying that to your account and those kinds of things. So I do agree with you on that one. I would much rather have seen that being built from the ground up as a dedicated cloud platform without the reliance upon WordPress. But, again, maybe one of those things that this has been in the pipeline for a while. This has been the move that they want to make, where you kind of get that flexibility of WordPress and Elementor and the output of HTML, so you kind of get the benefit of a dedicated cloud platform. Well, again, like I said, we'll have to wait and see where this kind of goes. Okay. Is there a reason currently to leave SiteGround for this? If you're happy with SiteGround and you're happy with hosting and all of the things that kind of go with it, no, I don't see the need to jump ship to something like this. I think this is another option. And like I say, until we find out how well this is going to perform, I don't think we could make any decisions. But I think if you're happy with dealing with the hosting separately, there's the sort of the whole analogy of having all your eggs in one basket. Do you really want to have that? Some people find that comforting. Some people would find that to be the worst thing in the world ever. I think you have to make your own choices with this. For me, I like to have separate hosting so I can move if I want to without a problem. And while you can move from the cloud platform, it's not really geared towards that. The whole point is your license is tied to it and all those kinds of things. So you can do it, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. So don't feel like you have to move to it. There's no push to move to this. It's just another option that you have if you want to explore it. And like I say, from my point of view, I explore it because, well, as part of what my job is to take a look at these kinds of things and see how well they work, what's good about them, what's bad about them, and then let you guys know. But like I say, I think a big part of this is going to have to come down to the pricing structure and what you're going to get, because when you consider something like SiteGround or Cloudways, the hosting price is not that extortionate. And then once you kind of factor in having your licenses with Elementor, the cost isn't that high. But then this is kind of bringing something different to the table with that headless WordPress, HTML output, those kinds of things. So you would kind of have to weigh up how useful you would find that in your business or in your website design or whatever kind of thing you're doing. So yeah, I think there's pros and cons. Okay, let me have a little look. Oh, wow, that's a lot of comments. Yeah, I totally agree. The pricing will matter. I think that the pricing is one of those things that is going to either make or break this for a lot of use cases. If it's too expensive, it's going to be pushed out of the reach of lots of users. In the same way that people complain about the pricing of something like Webflow, if this kind of matches that, whether it's a monthly or an annual kind of fee that's on par with that side of things, you'd have to question the wisdom in that. Because when you look at something like Webflow, the benefit you get there is it's a totally sort of dedicated, purpose-built platform with hosting, security, software, and all those kinds of things. Whereas this is still WordPress with Elementor that's being spat out as HTML, you know. But like I say, I'm no expert on this. I'm looking forward to taking it for a spin, and I'm sure Imran will be doing exactly the same thing. Okay, so before we go any further, let me just quickly say, if you're enjoying the live stream, give it a thumbs up, as always. And hopefully you've all got a beer, because tonight I've got a different beer. So anybody that knows me will know that I absolutely love Croatia. And Ozuško is kind of like the main pivo or beer that you kind of get in Croatia. So this has been very, very difficult to get hold of, but thankfully we found a place that imports it. So it's actually really, really nice to get hold of some of this. So if anybody has ever been to Croatia, you'll probably know Ozuško because it is the main one there. But hopefully you can join me in a little drink tonight and we can just enjoy an evening talking about WordPress and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's enough about Elementor. Let's move on to the next topic that I'm pretty sure that everybody knows about, and that is, what can we say? Advanced Custom Fields has been bought yet again. This time, not just Advanced Custom Fields, but everything bar, I think it's WP Spinup from Delicious Brain. So they basically sold everything that they offer except for WP Spinup, which allows you to spin up WordPress. So yeah, now the good thing is, at this point in time at least, WPEngine have already come out and said they will still be supporting the lifetime deal holders. So that's good to know. Hopefully it'll be one of those things that it's not going to be until the next version comes out, or they kill it off in favor of a slightly different variation of it, you know, the kinds of things we've seen many times before. But looking at the post about this, and again, I'll put some links into the description below once this is finished so you can check these out for yourself and have a little look. But you can see what they basically bought is Delicious Brains, which includes Advanced Custom Fields, WP Migrate, WP Offload Media, WP Offload SES, and Better Search Replace. That kind of combines with their local, which is basically a sort of like localized server, which you can, if you use WPEngine, you can push your sites directly from your local setup using what's been renamed to local straight up to the servers, which is quite cool. I never really got on with it. I always found I had a bit of a problem, but I know a lot of people really like it. So ACF has yet again been sold to a different company. Now, the good thing, I suppose, is a company like WPEngine obviously has more money behind it to be able to invest into a product like Advanced Custom Fields. And combining that with the Genesis framework and the Atlas content modeler, two of which things I've never actually tested out, so I don't really know anything about those, does potentially give them a good infrastructure for people that want to build WordPress websites all on the WP Engine platform. So hopefully this will be one of those things that's actually a good move. This will be the last place that ACF will be sold to, and they will actually get some money put into it, and we won't get any more letters asking lifetime deal holders to pay for a new version because they've done their job. But what are your thoughts on this? I mean, does this kind of make you think you'd rather move over to something like MetaBox or Toolset or Toolkit, whichever one it is, or Jet Engine, something like that? Or do you feel this is actually a good move and it actually settles the landscape for advanced custom fields, and it gives you a bit more confidence that this is going to be the long-term life, should we say, for Advanced Custom Fields and Advanced Custom Fields Pro moving forward? I would love to know your thoughts and feelings about this acquisition. I'm kind of like in two minds about it. It's sad to see it being sold yet again, especially when you're talking about it's only been with Delicious Brains for about 12 months. But on the flip side, I don't think Delicious Brains really knew what the hell to do with it. And I think the problem was they maybe didn't do their due diligence. They bought it thinking there was going to be a massive market for it and they were going to make good money. And the reality turned out that a lot of lifetime deals had been sold, and therefore they weren't going to make the same level of return on that investment that they initially thought they would do. Hopefully, WPEngine will have done their due diligence, which I'm sure they will, and they know what they're letting themselves in for, and by buying all the products and tying that into WPEngine and the various other things that they have, their Genesis framework and so on, they're looking at a bigger picture. Now, hopefully that will benefit everybody because more money will be invested in expanding and supporting ACF, but also it means that if you are a WPEngine user, you may have access to this to give you a different infrastructure to work with. So, as always, let me know your thoughts on this. Do you think this is a good move for ACF? Do you think it's a bad move for ACF? Would it make you want to move away to a different tool because of another acquisition in the space of around 12 months? What are your thoughts on this? Let's have a little look what you guys are saying. Okay. It's early year in Southern California. Can you say liquid lunch? Yeah, absolutely, Joe. Go for it. No one's going to judge you at all. Have a liquid lunch. It's all good. Rich, no double APA tonight. That was a accidental thing, so I'm going to try to stay at least partially sober while we're doing the live stream. Although we can never guarantee that at all. Just coffee for you, Davey? That's no problem at all. We can all join in and just have a nice warm drink, cold drink, it doesn't really matter. Okay. Somebody got ridiculously wealthy. You're probably right on that one. You'll probably like local on Mac too. Maybe it's because I tried it on the PC, else. I always found that it would just go really, really slow for me. I just kind of got a bit fed up with that. I like the options that it kind of give you to create templates and then spin them up really, really quickly. The principle behind it was really cool. So maybe I will go back and try it on the Mac and see if it's actually better and see if I like it on there. But like I say, on the PC, I never really got on with it. I tried it a couple of times on different computers, and each time there were different issues with it that just kind of made it a bit of a pain to work with. Like it would say the server wasn't found and all those kinds of things. So maybe I'll go back and take another look. Okay, Stratix. ACF is still the light plugin that does the job done with no problems. It's not the easiest one, but page builders have done a great job with integration. I think that's the strength of Advanced Custom Fields ACF, is that it's integrated into so many different tools and platforms and plugins and so on. So I think with the right company behind it and the right vision behind it, it could really become probably the standard. But the thing that I like to see is that I think MetaBox did a good job with their lifetime deal, because I think that's opened up a lot more users in the user base that maybe wouldn't have looked at it before, but the price was right for them to jump on board, grab themselves a lifetime deal, and have that there when they wanted to sort of like look into it a little bit more, especially with the uncertainty that was around ACF when they did their lifetime deal with MetaBox on AppSumo. So I think that was a good timing on their part. It's good to see the Jet Engine is also starting to pick up more third-party support. Like Bricks Builder, for example, is supporting it. There are third-party plugins now that are supporting it, and that's a good thing to see. I like to see, it's good for us because it means that we've got a richer landscape of tools that we can tap into and use, and it gives us options. So if we find that something like ACF is going a direction we don't like, or something like this happens and you kind of lose confidence in it, you have other options. And you can very easily transition between these tools, because once you're accustomed to working with any kind of advanced custom fields type tools, meta fields, custom post types, those kinds of things. Once you're comfortable with the terminology and the tools, it's very, very easy to transition between, toolset and ACF and Metabox and Jet Engine and pods and those kinds of things. So it's good to see that it's not that difficult to transition between them. But we'll have to wait and see. I think it's definitely in a little bit of a state of flux at the moment, and we need to sort of let the acquisition settle down a little bit and find out what that actually means for the users. So I'm interested to see where it goes. Again, it's one of those things that I think we have to wait and see what happens in the next 6 months with it. But I think if they go in the wrong direction, there's a very, very big user base that's going to be very, very annoyed with it. And I think we found out that also very vocal when they're not happy, like they did with when Delicious Brains bought it originally and when that email was sent out several months afterwards. But we'll have to wait and see. I'd say fingers crossed that it's actually the right decision, and this means that they can push ACF further with a much bigger budget behind it to take it in directions that we maybe not have thought of, or at least give us a tool, or keep on giving us a tool that is so well integrated and so well loved in the WordPress community. Anyway, that's pretty cool. Now, local is slow. Laragon is so much faster. The interface is thick. See, Anthony, now I found the same thing. I found when I was using local, it was very, very slow to work with. Like I say, I like the idea of it, but it was quicker for me to actually go online, connect up to a server somewhere else in the country and be able to use it than it was actually using it on my local machine, which kind of defeats the purpose of using a tool like local if it's actually slower to work with. So yeah, bit of a weird one. Okay. I'm no pro user, only use ACF free plugin, but I probably like more the idea of getting Jet Engine. I will wait to see till Black Friday probably and see where they are going. Jet Engine is maturing into a very, very good product. I mean, I know there's a lot of people moaning about, some of the other things that Crocoblock have released and not supporting it or not developing it in directions they want to go in, but I don't really use any of those other tools. For me, the combination of Jet Engine, Jet Smart Filters, and Jet Search is a very, very powerful combination. And I think we have to be honest that there's no perfect tool out there. Every one of these tools has had problems in the past to varying different degrees. And when you kind of consider how complex a tool something like Jet Engine is, I mean, you can kind of compare Jet Engine more to Metabox, which is kind of like that suite of tools, than ACF, which is just one part of the whole process of creating a dynamic website. But it's a really, really powerful tool with the query builder, with all the different things that have been included in that. And the fact it now supports Gutenberg, which is a good thing, and more plugins are starting to support Jet Engine in Gutenberg, I think it's got a good future ahead of it. And I'm excited to see where that goes as well. So, lots of great options. But let me have a little look what you guys are saying. Rich, what have we got here, young man? I think we'll see ACF functionality built into another product. Then ACF, as we know, will not be enhanced going forward. You'll then need to subscribe to the new tool and get the new features. That is part of what I'm scared of. I'm concerned that may be something that actually happens, and it could do. I think it would be a bad move if it was the case. But at the end of the day, we don't know which direction WPEngine is going to go in. They've mentioned in their press release that we would still be supported and we won't pay for new versions, like when version 6 comes out and 7 comes out and so on. But like you say, they could quite easily turn around and create a new product, and then the lifetime is no longer valid because it's a different product. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. So I'm kind of hopeful, but I'm also skeptical. It really isn't slow for me. I have a lot of different test sites open, and we're going back to local now. I'm jumping around a little bit, so sorry about that. Like I say, I need to go back and test it out on the Mac and see if it actually is better on the Mac. And maybe it was just something to do. It just didn't like something part of my configuration. Maybe there's reasons for why it doesn't necessarily work particularly great on every platform. But I'll have to give it a try and see what happens there. Be interesting to see if it does work better on the Mac than it did on the PC. Okay, we're going to come back to this in a moment, then we're going to move over to the Q&A, but I want to bring something up that I want to quickly talk about. I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want it to be a sales pitch or anything. But I posted up a little teaser on Facebook earlier on, which is this. And it kind of keeps it in the dynamic content vein with ACF and things like that. This is a basic outline for a mini course that I'm working on that I'm hoping to release in the next month or two. It's not going to be a huge course of multiple hours, like 10 hours or something. This is going to be much more a case of teaching the fundamentals. And I want to quickly just go through it for anybody that's interested in learning how to work with dynamic content inside the WordPress environment and the different tools that are available. So I'm creating a mini course that's going to take you through various different aspects of actually working with dynamic data inside WordPress. It's not going to focus on one single set of tools because I want to demonstrate how to use some of the tools that are available and then show you how you can output it using various different methods. I'll probably use ACF free because its very nature, it is free. So it means that the barrier to entry is considerably lower than moving over to some of the other tools. But then when it comes to outputting the information, we're going to take a look at how you can do this. I'll touch upon how to do it manually so you don't need to use any kind of other tool. So you could literally get in and output this using code. And I'll show you a couple of little tips on how you can make the process easier if you're not particularly strong at writing code. But I'm also going to show you how you can do it inside themes, Gutenberg, and a page builder like Elementor. But as I've said several times in this live stream, the whole point of any of these is when you kind of get accustomed to the terminology that's actually used inside dynamic data, meta fields, custom post types, those kinds of things, transitioning between any of the tools is relatively simple and straightforward. Yes, there's going to be slight differences, but the reality is most of them are cosmetic, they're very, very minor, and once you kind of become comfortable with it, you can go an awful long way. So this is going to be geared at those that are generally not that accustomed to working with dynamic data, but it is going to go into more detail than I've covered in some of my videos. You might want to skip past some of those bits and pieces. You might be interested in finding out more about custom post types, metadata, and all those kinds of things. So this is something that will be coming hopefully within the next month to 2 months. And it's going to go through, like I say, WordPress custom posts, custom meta fields, the WordPress loop relationships, and how to actually build the data, output the data, and how to understand the whole thing that's going on behind the scenes with custom post types, and how this can actually really push what you can do with WordPress over and above using dozens of plugins to do really, really simple things. So that's a course that I'm going to be working on, or I am working on at the moment. So hopefully keep an eye on the Facebook group and on the YouTube channel and on Twitter, because I will be updating as I go through. And if you've got any comments or questions on anything to do with this, there's a thread over on the Facebook group, which if you are not a member of the Facebook group, you might want to join up. So you can just hop on over there and you can comment away. As you can see, there's already quite a few different comments going on there. Ask questions about what the course is going to include, the tools, those kinds of things. But I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to bringing this course out because I think, well, I've covered a lot of the topics in small amounts of detail in videos. This is one of the things that I want to cover in more detail. And this might be the first part of a multi-mini course series that'll take you from understanding all the basics and the fundamentals and how to create your custom post types, how to create your relationships and your data, how to output them in various different methods. And then we may take a look at how you can actually start to build things and lots of other things. I've got lots of ideas going around in my head where this can go. So I'm excited for this. Hopefully this will be something that you'll find interesting. And like I say, if you're not a member of the Facebook group, or if you are a member of the Facebook group, hop on over there, take a look at it, and let me know your thoughts. And I'll give you a sneak peek to one more thing, which is the current outline for what's going on. And as you can see, we're going to be breaking it down into what are custom post types, when to use them, creating them, what they're actually made up of from a code point of view, as well as other aspects of it, the different tools you can use to actually output these, displaying your custom post types using, like say, Gutenberg, using code, using page builders. We're going to take a look at custom meta fields. We're going to go through all the various different aspects of meta fields. We're going to take a look at how we can create custom loops using, again, various different tools like Elementor Pro, Blocksy, for example, Gutenberg, Elementor Custom Skin, or tools like that. Take a look at relationships And then we're going to take a look at what tools we can use, both free versions and premium versions, and we can see some of the positives and the negatives of using various different tools and tool combinations. So if this is something you're interested in, like I said, hopefully you'll find the course useful, and I'm kind of excited for working on it. It's actually given me a real kick at the bum to get working on my courses again, because I've kind of like slacked off a little bit over the last couple of months for various different reasons. Predominantly having a 5-month-old baby doesn't help, but you know, we'll see. Let's have a little look. Imran, for all my years of messing around, I haven't used ACF much, and if I was going to learn from anyone, then Paul gets my vote. That's very kind of you to say so, young man. Thank you very much. It is kind of, it's where my passion definitely lies when it comes to WordPress and building websites and stuff like that. I like going beyond what you can do with the basic tools and things. So hopefully it will be something that you will enjoy. Excuse me, my nose is running like a tap at the moment. Not that you needed to know that. But yeah, hopefully it'll be something you enjoy. See, now, this is kind of where I think it's important to understand Elementor Pro, yep. Blocksy, again, yep. The bit in the middle, Crocoblock. Don't get hung up on using Crocoblock, because even if I showed you how to build something like this in ACF, for example, take my word for it, transition it from ACF into Jet Engine is going to be very, very easy to do. And maybe it's one of those things that I take a look at, either something ancillary to the course or somewhere or another, taking a look at the differences between those tools and how there are actually a lot more similarities than differences. And once you kind of understand how one works, working with the others is actually relatively simple. Let me know if this is something you'd like me to create a video on to show you. Like, let's take a look at ACF, for example, and how that's very similar, how you do it in ACF to create a custom post type and some meta fields, then how you do it in like a tool like ACF, then how you do it in MetaBox, then how you do it in Toolkit, whichever it is, and how you do it in pods. So we could easily see the differences and the similarities between them. I'd love to know if that's something you'd be interested in. Again, let me know. Okay. Right, let's have a little look. What else do we have? Because I've got lots and lots of comments. Right, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to this. It's Q&A time. So if you've got any questions for me, whether it's covering anything we've covered in tonight's live stream, whether it's anything to do with WPTuts or anything like that, let me know in the chat. I will do my very best to answer them. I'm going to say we've got about 15 minutes before we're going to wrap up the live stream. So get your questions in, and I'm going to take a look at what other comments and feedback are on ACF, and then we'll take a look at what you're going to say for a Q&A session, what questions you want to ask me. Good evening, Tarek. Good evening from Istanbul. I hope you're doing very, very well. Chris, local is very fast on Mac. Like I say, maybe I need to go back and have another look at it. So maybe I'll take that for a spin this week and see how well it works out, because it probably would be easier for me than having to continually create subdomains over on my one SiteGround hosting plan, which isn't difficult, but it's a bit of a pain in the butt when you've got to keep doing it. Yanis already said it. Last week I started creating my first ACF Bricks site. It is just a happy time for me to see what I can do things in a better structured and more productive way. I think the big update for Bricks has really brought a lot of really cool features, especially if you want to work with dynamic data. Their loop builder and all the other things that they bring into the table. There's a lot of really good things going on there. And again, it's one of those things that I need to sit down and start building some sites with Bricks and really take it for a good spin to see what it's kind of, how it's working, how well it's working, how it's working with that dynamic data. Bricks is, like I said, you all know how much I like Bricks anyway, how much I'm behind the Bricks project. I really want that to succeed. I don't think it's ever going to be on par user base wise with Elementor, because I think their paths are different, and I think their goals are very different. I think Thomas has very different goals to what Yoni and the other people behind Elementor have, which is no bad thing. Okay. Oh, they're getting to it, exactly. Let's have a little look. What other things have you got? Jamie, I really like the Grogu figure there behind you. Where did you buy it? I got it from Amazon. It's just one of the little bobblehead things. So you've got a little bobblehead going on with him. And I'm pretty sure that Imran will be really, really happy with the fact that I have a TIE fighter, a Lego TIE fighter in the background now, which If I go there, it should focus on it. Is it going to focus on it? There. Yeah, there we go. And I bought the X-Wing today, so the X-Wing is going to be put together and put on that side later this week. I'm getting a little bit Star Wars nerdy now, so I do apologise. Chris, very excited for the course. Thank you very much. It was one of those things that I didn't know whether to actually put a course together on it because I didn't do any real market research on whether they'd be interested in it. But I kind of thought I need to scratch that itch. I really need to, create some content on things like that. I really want to create more mini courses that are not going to be stupidly expensive for people to price them out of the market kind of thing. But they're not going to be 10 hours long because I think that's great. But sometimes you kind of feel like those courses are padded out. And I would much rather give you 2 to 3 hours worth of information that isn't going to give you information overload. You can go back to when you want to recap on anything. But it's pretty much all actionable content. Yes, there's some theory involved in it, so you understand why you're doing something. But most of it's going to be practical. It's like, okay, now you understand what custom post types are, how WordPress uses them. Let's get ahead and bloody build the things. And let's take a look at, once we've built those custom post types, how can we output that information? And instead of giving you just how to do it with like Elementor, for example, it's more valuable, I think, to show you, right, okay, you created them. Now you can output them with Gutenberg. You can output them with Elementor. You can output them, in other different ways, with a theme, for example, like Blocksy. I think there's more value in that. So I'm glad that you're excited for what we're going to do with this, and hopefully the course will be, hopefully the course will be something that is a success and people will enjoy it, and they'll give me scope to move on to more mini courses that expand what that first course actually covers. I'd like to have a suite which you can then pick and choose which direction you want to go through. You might find one is going to be good, and then you think, actually, the next one, I don't need that. But the one after it, that's something I really want to find out more about. And as always, your feedback is massively important in these kinds of things that helps shape the direction of where these courses, tutorials, whatever kind of goes. So, yeah, hopefully be good. Thank you very much, Imran. Let me think and plan for the course. That's kind of what I wanted to do. It's like I sat down and sort of like just threw ideas on the page. It's like, right, okay, if I was going to buy a course on how to build a WordPress website or go beyond the basics of WordPress with tools like custom post types and those kinds of things, what would I want to know? What would I find useful? And that's kind of what I did. And there's still probably scope for adjusting things, which is why I'm more than happy to get feedback on what you would like to see in it, and I can kind of like assess what you're thinking and think, actually, yeah, that fits in nicely to that part. When it comes to any of the content I create, your feedback is vitally important, whether that's content for paid courses or whether it's tutorials or live streams and things like that. Excuse me. So, yeah, fingers crossed it'll be good. Let's have a little look. CCTs are a great feature of Jet Engine, but they're still just a little bit too limited. And if anybody doesn't know what a CCT is, it's a custom content type. The difference being is when you create a custom post type with WordPress, it puts that into the standard WordPress database, puts it in multiple locations. Each custom post type entry can go into multiple different locations. A CCT, when you create a custom content type, every record only occupies one database entry in its own custom database table, which is different to what is done out of the box with custom post types and advanced custom fields. So the benefit is that it can be much, much faster, especially when you have a database with thousands of records. Filtering and searching becomes much, much quicker. So there's a benefit there to something like that. The downside is it's still a relatively simplistic way. So if all you want to do is output really simple data, CCTs are definitely a really, really good way of doing it. However, when you want to have taxonomies associated with them and more complex data models, then it's not really geared towards that. I hope this is something that they will expand into and make it more powerful, but at this point in time, it doesn't really have that option. But MetaBox, I believe, gives you the option to have your data in its own dedicated database tables. I'm also relatively sure there's a plugin or a way of doing it with ACF. So maybe there's some things I need to look into a little bit more detail and see what options are available for other tools and what we can kind of do with those. So that'd be interesting to see where that goes. But CCTs are good, but I think they're sadly just a little bit limited right now. Joe, I do agree with you, Imran. Your YouTube ACF series was very, very helpful. Now I learned Elementor. Can't wait. it's one of those things that I'm really, really glad. It's one of those areas that I've always liked, that nerdy sort of database side of things. Anyone that's sort of seen my live streams and stuff before, you might already know that, like, I built my own CMS when I sort of had my web design business. So I'm kind of used to working with relational data and those kinds of things. So it's like that for me is where the interest lies, where you kind of have a problem. You think, right, how can I actually solve this, as opposed to trying to shoehorn it into what you can do specifically just with WordPress as it is, the sort of vanilla install of WordPress. And that's the reason why I kind of really doubled down on creating the dynamic content side of things. And I've kind of strayed away from it a little bit recently, because I kind of felt like I covered all the key things I wanted to cover without going into really micro niche areas. But I want to go back and create the course, because I can go into more detail, and I think I can give more value in a course where I don't have to worry about the YouTube algorithm. I don't have to worry about getting eyeballs on it. If I get 100 people on the course, it was worth doing. You know, if there's 100 people can use the course and they can expand their knowledge and they can create more advanced WordPress websites and make more money out of it. Because ultimately, that's what I want, is that anybody that's doing that kind of thing, either for themselves or for a living, when you can offer more, when a potential client comes to you and says, I want this, and you think, well, WordPress can't do that, but I could find a plugin or 10 plugins to do it, I would much rather give you the tools and the skills and the knowledge and understanding that you can go, actually, I could do that with Metabox, or I could do that with Jet Engine or ACF and custom post type UI, and I could create that. And then you've got a much smaller tool set, something you're accustomed to, but you've got a world of opportunities ahead of you. So that's why I want to kind of double down on creating these mini courses, to give you even more knowledge and understanding. So hopefully it gives you an even better base to sort of work from, if that makes any kind of sense. That's kind of where I'm going. Okay. Stratos, are you coming to Europe WordPress Camp Athens next year? I would love to go to one of the WordPress camps. Next year probably would be a better option. I did take a look at doing the one in, where was it? Well, the one that was last week, because I really fancied going to it. And then I looked at the flight prices and they were absolutely astronomical. I think a flight with at least one stop, which means that the flight was probably like 7 hours instead of being like 2 hours, and that was like £800. Plus then you got to look at somewhere to stay and everything else, and it was just kind of like, that's just silly money for something that probably would have cost like £200, 2 years ago. So hopefully things will have settled down a little bit next year, and I would love to come out to one of the word camps, so the WordPress camps, and meet some of the people that are out there. I mean, Stratos, I'm sure you're probably going to go, because I'm assuming that's relatively close to where you are. So yeah, I would definitely love to do it. Definitely love to take a look at that. So you never know. Fingers crossed I'll be able to attend one of those next year. It would be nice to just have one in the UK, as opposed to just being in other parts of Europe. So fingers crossed. Okay, let's have a little look. Rich, when will we see some Metabox tutorials? I don't know. When I sit down and delve back into it, which is something I do really need to do. I need to kind of take a look at these tools in a bit more detail. I keep buying Toolset or Toolkit. I can never get the bloody name right. I keep buying a license for that every single year with the intention of going back and saying, right, really going to learn this now and create some content. And then other things come up and I never do. So I just keep spending money on it. But I do have the lifetime deal with Metabox. So I will need to have a little bit of a dig into that and see what we kind of think of it. So yeah, maybe sometime. That's all I can say. I can't be more specific than that. I do apologize. Video Boy. Okay, I'm going to keep this one relatively quick. Thoughts on Brizy Cloud compared to Elementor Cloud? I think Brizy Cloud is a better thought out platform because it isn't reliant upon WordPress, so therefore you don't have that overhead of WordPress, but you still get the benefit of probably 85% of the typical Brizy WordPress plugin. I like the way various different aspects of it work, but I have found it's not always the quickest to work with and can be a little bit flaky at times, where sometimes things don't work the way you expect it to. But I mean, with a platform like any of these, they're still ironing bugs out. And I prefer that model, though, where you remove that WordPress reliance. And I would much rather see Elementor Cloud go down that route than the way they are at the moment, which is just basically kind of like cloud hosting with some restrictions on it, and then just WordPress and Elementor pre-installed for you. So I prefer the way that Brizy Cloud is set up and operates over the way that Elementor Cloud is set up and operates. Hopefully that answers that question anyway. Okay. Nazmal, any best property listing plugin? To be honest, I don't use any kind of property listing plugins. Imran is probably your guy to speak to when it comes to creating listing websites using a listing theme stroke plugin. He's been doing quite a few different videos and bits and pieces in the live stream. And I know he uses that, as I can see from the comments below. My listing theme is amazing for directories and listing plugins. Have a chat with Imran, Web Squadron, because he does a lot of this and does this in his business. So he's going to have a much better understanding of those tools and can give you probably a lot more advice than I could. Personally, I would generally go for building my own. But like I say, if you are set on creating something built around a plugin or a theme stroke plugin, maybe take a look at my listing and have a chat with Imran. Okay, we've got 5 more minutes. I'm going to take 2 more questions and then we're going to wrap up tonight. Let's have a little look. Let's have a little look. So, that did make me smile. Totally love the Star Wars. My 7-year-old son was watching now and loved your background. He's going to love it even more when I get the X-Wing over there. Nice. Now, I did fancy, I'm going to sneeze at any point now. I did fancy the Millennium Falcon, but that's like £700 for a big chunk of Lego. And I think that's out of what I want to do when it comes to building Lego. So I'm working on a second set at the moment. So there's going to be a different set inside the same room, which is always the plan in the studio. So I need to kind of figure out how I want to do the background, and that might have more to do with the Star Wars things than this particular set. We'll have to wait and see. And if anyone's got any ideas, by all means do comment in the comment section on this video after I finish the live stream. It'd be interesting to find out what you think I should do on the second set inside the studio. Anyway, so I'm glad your son liked it anyway, Imran. Okay, Yanis. It's a huge question. There are a few new extras starting to pop up with Bricks in the Bricks community. There's a huge discussion about if that's a good or a bad thing. What do you think about it? I can understand why people think it's a bad thing, but the reality of it is, I think the reason why Elementor took off and has become such a massive part of the WordPress community is not just down to Elementor. I think it's down to the third-party network and infrastructure around it, where so many other companies are creating different products, and a lot of them are filling in the gaps in Elementor. Excuse me for sniffing. And I think you kind of have to look at the positives and the negatives with it. It's good because it fills in those gaps and gives us tools that we don't actually have and we need to get a job done. The downside is every time there's an update to Elementor, if you're using third-party plugins, then it opens up the scope for problems and issues. And this is something we've seen time and time again when you look at the Elementor forums and Twitter and Facebook and those kinds of things. So I understand the trepidation where you've got people saying they don't want that to happen in Bricks. And ultimately, I would much prefer to see Bricks, Elementor, all of these different tools not being so reliant upon third-party tools to do the core things we need. So if Elementor, for example, brings out a loop builder, it brings out conditional logic, those couple of other things that we need to give us a full tool set, then we don't need to rely upon these third-party add-ons and plugins and things to do core functionality. If we want to use them for ancillary things, then that's a different matter. That's a whole different conversation, I would say. So I think that the difference kind of goes back to how Elementor is developing the different parts of Elementor itself in comparison to what Bricks is doing. Bricks is kind of looking at the core things that everybody needs to build websites and more advanced websites, whereas Elementor have kind of gone in a different direction, and we still have those gaps that need to be filled, and unfortunately we have to rely upon other tools to fill those gaps. So I think there's two sides to the coin, that there's positives and there's negatives. So as long as the kinds of things that come out for Bricks are more add-ons and less requirements to get the job done, I don't see a problem with that. However, if they're filling gaps in the tool set that we need to get the job done, that's when it does become a bit more of a problem, and you open up the potential for more problems when we have to update those kinds of things. So yeah, that's kind of my thought on it. I think that's kind of indicative of the differences between those two builders. Hope that answered the question anyway. Okay, let's have a little look. One more question, and I'm gonna. Yeah, sorry. Let's have a little look what else we've got. Cool, flipping eggs, an awful lot of comments on you. I hope the course will not be as expensive as some well-known WP YouTubers. I have no idea what other course creators are actually charging or what course creators are actually releasing courses. So let me know. Let me know what courses you're talking about, what creators you're talking about, and let me know the kind of prices that they're actually selling their courses for. Because it would be interesting. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, you kind of have to be realistic about how much you can charge versus how much time you actually spend creating the course and how much is in the course and what value the buyer will actually get from it. I think if you're creating courses that are not that deep and not that important and you're still charging a lot of money for them, then that's one thing. I think if you're creating content that actually allows people to ultimately make more money, then maybe that's a different topic and a different sort of pricing model. But don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm not one of those people that thinks you want to sort of start charging like $1,000, £1,000 for a course that's 2 hours, 3 hours long. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. But you also kind of have to be realistic about the time and effort and the return on that investment that you can give to anybody that actually hops on and buys into the course. But let me know, who are you talking about and what kind of money you're talking about for their courses? Because it'd be interesting to find out, because I don't really take that much notice of what other WordPress YouTubers are releasing course-wise. But it'd be interesting to find out. Okay, let's have a little look. One more. Isn't there a UK WordPress camp? I honestly don't know, Davey. If there is, I'd love to know. But I've never actually, well, I haven't seen one this year. I would hope there would be something to do with the UK side of things. I mean, at the end of the day, we do have a lot of WordPress users. So it'd be interesting. And Imran, hope to see you next year. I take it you're talking about potentially going to the Athens one as well. If you do, we will definitely have to make sure that we catch the same flight this week and talk and bore each other stupid with WordPress talk and Star Wars talk on the flight over. So that could be fun. Okay. A UK one would be amazing. Let's have a little look at one more question. Right, let's have a little look. I'm going to say this one. Joe, for site builds, do you recommend staying in Elementor Pro with minimal plugins, or do you have Elementor Pro with a core set of third-party plugins? I don't really have a dedicated reason to stay with just Elementor. I think I've kind of covered this in some live streams before. I always look at, if you're going to have a stack, you know, you've got your core set of tools and plugins, I think you need multiple stacks, because I think if you just rely upon, for example, just using Elementor, Elementor Pro, and the Hello theme, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But when you've got a site that could be like quite a simple site, that could be overkill, having to create all the template files and those kinds of things for it, where that might be better to be using something like Cadence theme or Bloxy theme or Astra and build it using their header and footer builders and benefiting from what you get as using a pretty streamlined theme. And then just using something like Cadence blocks or Stackable or Generate Press and Generate Blocks, for example, because you can get an awful lot done with those kinds of tools. If it's something that's more complicated, like a listing site or something you need like a front-end dashboard, then that's where something like Elementor Pro makes life a lot easier. But then that would generally be a higher ticket project. You could be talking, I don't know, 10, 15,000 for creating something like that, because that's very bespoke. So I don't really have a set of tools. I would look at what makes the most sense for a given project. Like, for example, the WPTuts website, originally that was built on Elementor in the previous version, but I got fed up of the worry about when you update something, having multiple different plugins in there, that causes a problem. And I don't want that kind of stress when there's so many bloody updates coming out on a regular basis with so many different plugins. So I moved that over to using the Bloxy theme. It's the Pro version, so I got the ability to add in advanced custom fields or custom post types if I want to. And I use that either with Stackable or Cadence blocks. So it's a relatively streamlined setup that is pretty decent pretty fast to work with, and I can update content in there relatively quickly without the need for any kind of page builder weight on top of it. But if I was creating something that needed a lot more customization, then I would probably look at using a tool like Elementor Pro alongside probably either Jet Engine or ACF, because they're kind of like the tool that I'm most comfortable with and most comfortable using. But I don't think there's any right or wrong. I don't think you want to limit yourself to just one toolset stack, unless you are very niche in what you create. If you only create listing websites, like for example, Imran does a lot of listing sites, and he likes the My Listing theme and the tools that kind of come with that. So he could probably rapidly create something much quicker than if you were creating it from scratch with a tool like Elementor Pro. However, I can imagine that if a client come along that wanted something that was beyond the scope of the My Listing theme and tools to go with it, then everyone will probably look at using something like Elementor Pro with the tools like ACF, MetaBox, one of those kinds of things, to create something more bespoke, but therefore the cost is going to increase exponentially because it's a much more complex, much more custom project. Like I say, I think if you're doing this for a living, having skills and knowledge in multiple different tech stacks and being quick to identify what a client needs and then choose the right stack is the best way to go about it. And sometimes WordPress isn't even the best kind of option. So there's lots of different things to look at. I don't have one specific set of tools. Hope that answered the question anyway. Okay, so we're going to have, right, when am I next live? That'll be 2 weeks today, which is going to be the 22nd? Yes, the 22nd of June. And I'm going to have a guest on with me for that live stream as well. So I'm not going to say too much more about that, but there will be someone else on with me on the 22nd. So it'll be the same time, 8 p.m. British Summer Time. And I'll have a guest on. So we'll have a nice little chat. And we'll be talking about WordPress and some other things as well. So I'm going to say no more than that. But yeah, 2 weeks today. Okay, so I'm going to wrap things up there. I want to just quickly say thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's great to see you all joining in. I love having this conversation. I love doing the live streams. Hopefully, if you want to keep up to date with what's going on with the course, make sure you're part of the WP Crew Facebook group. Hop on board there, give us your feedback, give us your comments, your questions, and anything else you want to sort of post about the course there, or anything else to do with WordPress and the channel. Stay safe wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you all in 2 weeks, if not before. Take care.